do you believe in multiple dimensions? We are trying to make a wormhole.
I access the fourth dimension. Maybe this is the new way we should do things, right? There's no up or down for me. I don't even know up or down exist. Anyways, I was watching Synchronic, and the movies. I'm not going to reveal the plot for everyone who is planning to watch this movie later on. But the thing is, in that movie, the theme is time travel, and by taking some sort of a drug, you can travel back in time to a different period, and then whatever physical effects happen to you at that point, you carry those physical effects with you in when you come back into this world. So if suddenly you start drowning or suddenly you become wet in the rain because you traveled 1000 years back and you're in a rainforest and it's raining, then when you come back to this time after a few minutes, because the drugs effects have gone away, you are going to be wet and you might carry some physical stuff with you as you come back. I started thinking, how can time make physical changes in our 3D world? Because the way we understand it is time, as we are passing through time, we are making physical changes, but it's not because time is enabling us to do that. Then I started thinking of this analogy, and this is where the real theory comes into place. This is where we are going to need some visualization, I guess. Is let's imagine that we are two-dimensional beings. We are a circle, like I am a square, you're a circle, right? We can only go front, back, left, or right. There's no up or down for me. I don't even know up or down exist, right? To me, my life is limited to front, back, left, right. Now, I started thinking, if I want to jump from this place to that place in my two-dimensional world, I will have to slide across some roads, like two-dimensional roads, to go to that spot, right? But what if I am part of a three-dimensional world that I don't know about? And then suddenly that being in the three-dimensional world to which I belong lifts me up from, like, let's say I'm part of some object in a three-dimensional world and I belong to the plane of that two-dimensional world, right? So as somebody lifts that object up, I get lifted up out of my 2D plane, and suddenly I enter the 3D world for maybe a few seconds or whatever. Like, and keep in mind, I'm saying a few seconds because I'm going from two-dimensional to three-dimensional. So the fourth dimensional, which is time, is still valid in the three-dimensional world. So somebody picks me up, places me back to a different spot, and now suddenly I've gone in my 2D plane. I've gone from this place to that place instantaneously, using a three-dimensional lift in the up direction, right? But somebody who is already in the 2D plane is going to perceive that I just went from this place to that place without having to slide across, right? So that way I'm thinking that what if we change the same analogy to 3D versus 4D, where three-dimensional beings, which are us, can be moving from one place to another place pretty much instantaneously using a fourth dimensional route, right? And that fourth dimension is time. So technically, if we travel through that fourth dimensional route, we would call it time travel. And I think that's what happens in Synchronic, where you are traveling from one place to another, except you're taking time as the route. So even though you're landing in a physical vicinity of the place that you were in, you would still be traveling through a different plane, which is why for a momentary amount of time you enter a different time, basically, right? Which is kind of like entering a different plane momentarily before coming back to your own plane, right? And that's where you carry the physical changes. Because it's not like you're traveling in a totally different world. It's like you're traveling through a lot of different two-dimensional worlds, then traveling in one two-dimensional world straight, and then coming back to the other two-dimensional world that you were in. Similarly, you're going from one 3D world, traveling through time, and then coming back to the 3D world that you were in. So you are still experiencing everything around you, except you're using time as a portal. So that's what the idea is, and I think like this has like a lot of implications in physics if something like this works out, you know?
I don't think that it will be that simple. So what I'm thinking is कि that if you consider time as a dimension, as the fourth dimension, but it's still not a spatial dimension. That is one thing.
Yes.
It is just a part of the space time. that is holding everything. And then still, okay, do you believe in multiple dimensions? Like, do you think that
Yeah.
do you believe that there is a particular order to these dimensions, like a hierarchy, or these are just random or
When
equal?
you say hierarchy, you mean like third dimensional is bigger than second dimension and so on?
Not just the size, I think it's about the the properties and how complicated it is. So taking that in mind, I don't think that time will come after the three space dimension that we have.
So you're saying there's like a different fourth spatial dimension that should exist?
Yeah, I'm just thinking key. There are more spatial dimensions or some dimensions between our 3D and the time, and that's why it will not be um, you know as simple to just access time, just the time, which is a higher dimension, much higher dimension, and you have all those other dimensions in the middle, and you can just directly access time and are able to go from one place to another.
I'm just thinking, like, I agree that, there have to be more spatial dimensions, like what we have with 3D, 2D. Analogically, this would mean that there's a fourth spatial dimension. What I am saying, though, is we don't understand time enough to say that it's not something. So I don't, the way we are interpreting the fourth dimension to be, and we are calling it spatial, is based on our perception of what space actually is. But we already know that time and space are interrelated. Right?
We don't know enough of anything other than the 3D level.
Exactly. All I'm saying is, like, we don't have that perception yet, and I don't think we ever would until our organs have evolved enough to comprehend this fourth dimension and so on, right? So I'm just saying, like, we don't understand time enough to really say anything about it, and that's why, like, I'm even, like, what I'm hypothesizing is limited to my perception of the way I'm assuming two-dimensional and three-dimensional things are interacting with each other. All I am really saying is to access my entire point, though, at the end of the day, is not that time is the fourth dimension or time is a spatial dimension. That's not the point. I don't want to make any claims on time as such, because I don't have.
Fascinated about the idea that we're able to access.
No. It's not even about time. Technically, it's about a statement about dimensions in general. I think what I'm saying is, if you want to if you want to access one particular dimension, I guess this goes into the hierarchy of dimensions that you were talking about. If you want to access one particular type of dimension easily, without having to go through the dimensional barriers, which in a 2D surface would mean going left, right, front or back only. And if there's a blocker in front of you, then you cannot do that, right? What I am saying is, if you want to cross those barriers off, then you would need access to a higher dimension. That's what my point is. So when I thought about this, I started with synchronic because my whole point was that how can time make physical changes in human body if you're in the same time, if you're coming back to the same time. So this is why basically what I'm saying is, if you want to cross certain barriers in your 3D world, then you would require access to the fourth dimension, which I'm thinking is time. But if it's not time, then something else. But we would require access to the fourth dimension to cross the three-dimensional barriers. Like, for example, for me, a barrier today between robbing a bank and staying here is that I cannot enter the bank without having a secure pass and everything, right? But what if I was a super villain who had the power of accessing the fourth dimension, and using the fourth dimension I could be traveling in the fourth dimension so that the three-dimensional people cannot detect me, and then I come back and land into the three-dimensional world while I'm actually inside the room, the bank where they have stored all the money. I collect all the money, I go back to the fourth dimension, I travel through the fourth dimension, I come back to my 3D world in my home, and I have all the money, and nobody is going to be able to tell how I did that because I access the fourth dimension. They don't have the technology even to even interact with the fourth dimension. That's what my point is. Like, how can you? Yeah. So like that's what my argument is about. That if not time, then whatever the fourth dimension is. But like to make physical changes in a particular type of dimension, you need access to a higher dimension. That's I think what the conversation that I'm talking about is.
We are trying to make a wormhole. All the scientists that they are doing the research, so what they are actually trying to do is they're trying to access or create or manifest or make a crack into a higher dimension
Higher dimension.
and make it stable enough that we can pass through it and out again in one piece. Maybe.
I mean,
And they don't even know.
they don't exactly. They maybe they don't. Maybe this is the new way we should do things, right? Like maybe if there's a scientist out there who thinks that this is a fascinating idea, set up an experiment. Let's do some shit right around this. Let's make a crack in the fourth dimension, and maybe we'll get access to wormholes.
Experiments are all we do, bitch.
Yeah. No man, scientists are the best. Like, huge respect to them. 1, 2, 3.
Take 3.
Hey guys, Mood Pickings is about random ideas and theories. We started this channel with the goal of building a community of thinkers like you.
If you like our content, do like, subscribe, and share. It will give us the encouragement to produce more stuff like this. We are just starting out and we would love to have your support.
We're building the community on Instagram and Twitter, and you can be a part of it too. Just go to the link in the description.
And let's not forget, we have a podcast with the same name, Mood Pickings. Links in the description too.
This is just the beginning, and there's a lot more to come. So we would love to have your comments and feedback. Thanks.
And peace.
Good. Yeah, that was good. Let's check it out.
Let's listen to it.